Tips and tricks against hunters. Wow, hunters, they are really annoying right now. In fact, I feel like the whole game just revolves around them, which is kind of sad. I mean, they can build a bunch of stamina and a bunch of power, which means they two-shot things and are untouchable, at least physically. Let's start off with the first tip, which is fearing the hunters and then chain possessing them into another trap. And you pretty much keep doing this until they die. And hunters will die to this quite quickly because they're a really small health pool. When you're doing this, make sure you dodge as much as you can before arriving at a trap so they cannot dodge the trap, so they take maximum amount of damage. Also, you might want to take note of how many times they can dodge. If you notice that the hunter can't dodge 5 to 6 times, I think 5 is the max at the moment, then that may mean that you can follow up with a quick possession and get a few hits in before they dodge everything. If you're playing Necromancer or Warlord, make sure to use your active ability to do even more damage. Take note that this also counters window vaulting to a degree unless they decide to camp in an area where there are no traps, and also you can vault like a normal survivor when you possess a survivor. Next tip is possessing other survivors and hitting the hunter. But don't just possess any survivor at random and start going crazy on the hunter. There are a few conditions that should be met, like preferably making sure it's a 1v1 situation, because if you go against 3 other survivors while possessing one survivor, most of the time you will lose and just waste your infernal energy because you can get staggered. Also, make sure you can hit the hunter, whether that's being closer, using a fast weapon, or having a gun. So I wouldn't advise possessing a warrior 5 meters away because they'll just shoot you out of it or just run away. Weapon dropping. Pretty frustrating thing to go against because it kind of doesn't punish the hunter for not building fear resistance. There's only really one counter to this thing, and that is possessing them before they have the chance to react. One way is by camping the hunter and putting traps in front of them and just possessing them before they can react, or using a jump scare and quickly flicking and possessing them again before they can react. However, these methods only work when hunters are traversing around the map, not once they get onto the objective area. Reason being is because hunters can stand still on the objective and stay near a light source and not move next to a trap, and even if you do manage to force them to go to a trap, by the time you unpossess that unit and try and possess them, they will drop the weapon very easily. Also, the jump scare method requires you to be at a certain distance so you can turn around and reach the survivor, and also make sure you don't hit any other objects or survivors or cars or units. And yeah, just very awkward, but this is a little counter that can help quite a bit. Bosses are pretty great against isolated hunters, especially Necromancer and the Puppeteer. I wouldn't recommend using Henrietta though against the hunters because she has a bit of an awkward lunge and her grab doesn't do a lot of damage. Whereas Necromancer's grab does a lot of damage. You can bait a dodge with his own dodge. You can kind of squeeze in a few cheeky hits here and there. And Puppeteer has a pretty great grab as well. He has a very awkward AoE damaging ability that's very awkward to dodge. And he's very hard to predict in general. I find few survivors predicting Puppeteer's hits. But obviously with Puppeteer he is very squishy. So you'll find yourself hovering around the hunters and waiting for your abilities to come back up. Hunters excel at high single damage, but when it comes to fighting multiple units, they don't do too great. So if you find yourself going against a hunter squad with like leader Annie and stuff like that, then I would recommend upgrading your portals instead of your possession and throwing in as many portals as you can. And if you have the skill points, I would recommend investing them into Health Razor and Rock Steady. Now the hunters will still be able to one-shot these units, but if they try and conserve their ammo and melee them, it's going to take them a very long time and they're most likely going to take damage. But I wouldn't recommend going into portals with the Puppeteer demons. Puppeteer requires a bit of a unique playstyle. And also you can surprise survivors by just possessing a unit from very far away and walking towards them and surprise them maybe while they are collecting their items, or maybe get a cheeky hit. With Warlord you can pretty much insta-kill a hunter if you peek on them from behind. I wouldn't get too comfortable with this strategy though, because you know it's probably going to get patched, this peeking dodge stuff. But yeah, in conclusion, these strategies will definitely help you a lot more going against hunters. You won't feel the need to always play warlord or rely on the basic deadites. You can use these strategies with the other demons and have a chance. If you do go against a decent squad of like 2 warriors, a hunter and support, those are pretty much the most difficult squads I find going against, then I would only recommend using these strategies against the hunters when you can. Do not force all your energy on the hunter, they can still waste a lot of your time. But any damage you can do, definitely do it, because as I said before, hunters have a very small health pool, and any little damage they take will kind of force the support's hand to use more shimps, or the hunter themselves to use more shimps as well. Apart from the weapon dropping, I think they're potentially balanced. The only reason why they don't feel very balanced is because they don't feel the need to build fear resistance, which means they can invest all their points into damage and stamina, or get away with being in comps that don't have ways of reducing their fear, like support Ash or leader Ash. And if a hunter gets lucky in finding a legendary weapon, they can get away with one-shotting everything and not killing their own team. Or as a demon, I can't waste their ammo because they've dropped their weapon. And it doesn't feel great being beaten, or even nearly being beaten, by a disorganized group of survivors. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if they buffed hunters' damage if they fixed this weapon dropping meta, because they should do damage. But they can't do a ton of damage and be untouchable. They should have one or the other, or they can have both, but this can potentially backfire on their own teammates. That's it. If you found this video in any way helpful, why not consider giving it a like, and yeah, thanks for watching.